from South Los Angeles, the City of Angels, for this special edition of Nightline.
25 years ago this week, this community was known as South Central, scene of one of the deadliest riots in U.S. history. 5 days of violence and mayhem when race and rage collided, sparked by the Rodney King verdict.
As you know, I grew up in California in a Korean-American family, and like most Americans, I will never forget watching in disbelief as chaos consumed one of our own cities.
Tonight, we don't just look back, we examine the lessons that we as a nation are still struggling to learn.
A lot of people are driving through right now, they don't know why we're standing here. By all other measures, this is just an intersection in Los Angeles.
This is utter lawlessness.
Fires, lootings, and beatings.
This is where it all came together. This is where it all fell apart.
25 years ago at the intersection of Florence and Normandy, the harrowing first hours of unrest that eventually engulfed Los Angeles. 5 long days that claimed the lives of more than 50 people, a defining moment for our nation. To some, it's known as the LA Riots.
LA will be awakened!
To others, the Uprising.
There's my truth, there's your truth, and then there's the truth.
LA had it all, had beaches.
The Hollywood sign.
It was magical.
Oh man, it's gonna hit the fan.
How this happened in the City of Angels is the story that Oscar winner John Ridley takes on with his new documentary, Let It Fall.
Based on my experiences, my upbringing, every aspect of it makes me angry.
The beating of Rodney King by 4 white police officers pushed the city to the brink. And then when the officers were found not guilty on charges of assault and excessive use of force, the city exploded in violence. That was April 29th, 1992. But Ridley's film begins 10 years earlier.
This was not something that happened because of one incident, because of one issue, and did not affect just one community.
In the early 80s, the street gangs started to connect with the drug dealers.
We are determined to take back the streets of Los Angeles.
Operation Hammer was a free ticket to go out there and do overly aggressive police work.
An untreated wound was festering. Aggressive policing tactics stoking resentment. Koreans and Latinos packed in with blacks. A melting pot about to boil over. The flame was turned up when just months before the Rodney King verdict, a Korean-American grocer shot and killed a 15-year-old black girl named Latasha Harlins. She was convicted of manslaughter, and a white judge let her off without any prison time.
The message that goes out to this community is a black life is not worth very much.
Those images of violence against black people playing over and over again, the perception that justice wasn't served.
They've all been found not guilty.
Come back!
Years of frustration begat protest.
No justice in America, not for the blacks!
Protest begat violence.
Anybody that wasn't black was getting their ass kicked.
In Let It Fall, those days unraveled after a series of fateful decisions. From the genesis of the unrest near Florence and Normandy to the moment Lieutenant Michael Mullen gave the order for police to pull back because they were unprepared for a riot.
And we were resistant. No, LT, no. We don't want to leave. We're not supposed to leave.
Had I allowed my officers to begin to use deadly force at that intersection, God knows what that riot would have turned into. That riot could have been a riot of not just burning down buildings. It could have been a riot of just pure anarchy against the police.
Without the police, the descent into chaos was swift. But there were those who stood up. What kept you in '92 from being one of those guys throwing bricks?
I felt like I was just as angry as everyone else. That's not who I am. I don't stand by and let innocent people be hurt.
People like Donald Jones, an off-duty firefighter living just blocks from Florence and Normandy, when a group of men started attacking Chinese immigrant Choi Sai-Choi.
And so I walked out in the middle of the street, said a few choice words to some people that were around that I won't say now, but told them to stay away, get back. Once I reached Choi, I stood there for a while, stood over him. He did not know where he was disoriented. Someone walked over from the corner and told me, he said, hey, you got about another minute in this intersection. So I picked Mr. Choi up, walked him over, put him in the passenger side of the car, and told him to put his head down. Because I didn't think that they would throw rocks or bottles at me, but I knew that if Mr. Choi raised his head, they would.
But were you mindful that at that point you could have been a victim as well?
Very, very much mindful.
That the mob could have attacked you?
Yeah.
So why'd you do it?
I don't know. I mean, you can't just not do something.
What he still regrets all these years later, that he wasn't able to help that trucker, Reginald Denny, who was being beaten within an inch of his life on live television.
The TV is on, and we are now watching Reginald Denny be attacked at the same intersection that Mr. Choi was at. We're now watching it on TV.
Terrible. And there's no police presence down here. They will not enter the area. This is attempted murder.
What was going through your head, through your heart?
That, I wish that I was there.
25 years later, it still gets to you. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I would want someone to do that for me.
I have compassion for anybody. But you have to understand, at that time, please, at that time, the compassion line was closed.
Told from many perspectives, Let It Fall reveals the many truths, one moment in time. Even the members of the so-called LA Four, the men convicted in connection with that Reginald Denny attack, tell their story.
Look at what they're doing to us. They're killing young black men. They're killing threats. Therefore, anything that isn't black doesn't mean nothing to me at all. Of course, we kill our own, you know what I'm saying? And that's not right. I'm not condoning that whatsoever. You understand what I'm saying? But it happens, you know.
What was your take of the LA Four? I didn't sense any remorse, any regret that, given the circumstance, they would do exactly the same thing that they did 25 years ago.
I would disagree. I think in those four individuals, we have a very poignant range of what so many people felt then and how it carries over 25 years later.
No justice, no peace.
25 years ago, who could have imagined?
It's not a black thing. It's been a black thing for the last 300 years.
We as a nation would still be debating these same issues. I couldn't.
It was here on the corner of Florence and Normandy.
I was a young reporter back then, sent to cover the LA riots.
Can this blighted part of LA be restored? Race relations improved.
Today I find myself in cities like Ferguson.
Show of hands if you've ever been stopped by the police, treated unfairly by the police.
Like Baton Rouge.
The intersection where the shooting happened is still packed with people.
Like my hometown of Baltimore.
How's the family holding out?
Asking the same questions 25 years after LA. Like most reporters in the nation's attention, I get to move on. But for those who lived it, it's far more complicated. Coming up, we talk to some of the people who took up arms in Koreatown to protect their American dream. One survivor breaking many years of silence.